Let's get scratching.
We got an explosive broadcast coming to you. Listen up. Sega games, just keep playing them.
We're back. It's the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show. Live. Get ready for Sega interviews and news.
I stand still alone that twilight.
Hello and welcome back to the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show Live. I am Barry, and you are listening to the longest running but least released podcast in Sega fandom. Yes, we started back in February 2010, and for a while we were spitting out episodes every week. And then it whittled down to 6 episodes a year. But hey, that's more than Stranger Things can manage most times. And joining me tonight is someone who is not a Stranger Thing. It is from a multitude of things that we're going to talk about, and we'll get into them. It's Scotty, or I'll call him Scott, but on the socials, he is ScottyMoFoSho. So let's welcome him on. Here he is.
Thank you.
There we go. So
everyone, that's everyone hiding behind my futon. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Our live studio audience. It's always this one woman, and she gets real jazzed every time. I've been meaning to replace the applause, but I don't know. I'm a fan of her. But so you have been within the Sega fan community for quite some time, and you're also kind of someone on my list because I've been wanting to have someone from every single Sega fan site on this show, and we've had a representative from TSSZ, believe it or not. We've had people from Sega Nerds. I mean, George is from Sega Nerds, so that's kind of a gimme. Right. We had Sega Driven's Sonic Yoda on the show. We've had Sega 16's founder on the show. But Sega Addicts has always been an elusive one. And it's always something that I've wanted to discuss in terms of like the history of its place in Sega fandom. And you have been making the rounds. You have a brand new podcast. I guess you could say it's in its infancy, the Sega Spirit Show. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss Sega Addicts, some of your work on the Megavisions magazine, and an upcoming Dreamcast marathon that you have going. And I'd love to hear more about that and talk about my Dreamcast marathons that I've done over the years. But
nice.
I've been talking enough. Why don't you tell me about your early days in fandom and how you got started on Sega Addicts and what they were all about?
Sure, yeah. First, thanks for having me. I have been in this community for a while. And I was thinking today, like, should I mention what got me literally into the online community? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? There's not much of a story. And I think it was all the way back in probably 2007. And I saw someone streaming. I don't think anyone is still doing this from that crew or even has any presence online, but the website was literally called I Have a Dreamcast.
Oh,
and
yes.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was planned at all. This was obviously before like Twitch, maybe even Justin TV. I don't even know if that was a thing, but it was just these people, like grown adults, just playing Dreamcast games. And that was pretty much it. For some reason, there was like a child's play toy instrument that was like a dinosaur xylophone.
Yep.
That was like part of the show somehow accidentally.
Yeah.
And now that I say this out loud, I remember they did, I think a couple of them were like in a band or something. They put out an album based on that stream, and there was a song on there that was just the dinosaur xylophone.
Yeah. I own the CD soundtrack to that. I watched that.
I have it somewhere too. Yeah,
I bought the CD soundtrack. It's over there, but I'm wearing like my pajama shorts, so I don't. I was like, if I get up, will they appear on screen? Do I want to go that far? But yeah, I actually loved that soundtrack, especially the the one that was singing about when he was, I have a Sega Dreamcast and 2 controllers. Like
Yeah, it was good, like quality music
good
too. It wasn't
indie
just
music, and it's sad
yeah.
too. Like if you are a Sega fan, hearing people sing on what was this? This was 9/9/2009, correct? Or was it
Maybe, yeah,
earlier?
maybe. I thought it was earlier than
It
that.
was earlier, yeah.
I
But
can't. I mean, I don't know how. I'm sure everyone has used that joke under the sun by now, so it's probably a little harder to find like that
right,
original anything about it. Um, but
wow,
I think that was the first thing that made me realize, oh, there are people online who care about Sega. Because like, and even further back, TLDR, I was the Sega fan amongst the Nintendo fans growing up. So I don't know if that's how it was for you, but like I was the weirdo, and there was one other kid that got a Dreamcast, and like his younger brother, my younger brother, and I, we were the only four people that played Dreamcast. It felt like in my
right,
neighborhood. Um, so finding that stream was like, whoa, people do like Sega, you know. And then from there, I think I just started trying to. Well, you didn't Google it back then, but just searching for Sega websites and stuff, and Sonic websites and things like that. And I found, I think I found all the junkyard ones first, like the
yeah.
Dreamcast junkyard. I think there was one for every console, right? The Nomad junkyard.
The
Um,
Saturn junkyard.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then like I don't even know how I found Sega Addicts. I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's this mysterious thing, and I just ended up there. I really don't remember how I stumbled upon them,
Yeah,
but that might have been the first Sega themed podcast I listened to, because Sega Addict started just as a podcast. And then a couple episodes in, they're like, we should probably have a website to host this on, because that still mattered back then, having a website instead of just a social media or YouTube or whatever presence. Um, and I was listening to them, and a little bit of a fan of Destructoid. And I say that because it started as a podcast and with Jim Sterling, now known as Stephanie Sterling. So no disrespect using their dead name, but yeah, that was like the star power that they got. And from what I understand, Alex Riggin, the original founder of Sega Addicts, he was just on the Destructoid forums and just like talking to people and saying like, does anyone want to start a Sega podcast? And he knew that Sterling was a big Sega fan, so he got him on. And he got a couple. He honestly just brought a couple of friends on and like other Destructoid community people.
yeah.
Um, and that's how Sega Addicts started. Again, just a podcast, and then they were like, we should probably have a website. And then they're like, I guess we could do reviews. Like not maybe how most fan sites started as like, we like doing this thing. Oh, we need to put them on something, you know?
Right, right.
Um, so yeah, that was the birth of it, was from Destructoid forums. And for anyone that doesn't know, that was a video game website, Destructoid. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting though that you know people like myself and you were kind of in the same circles, even though we didn't know it at the time. With the I have a Dreamcast stream, which these people who put it on, they kind of came and went from fandom. They never hung around. I never encountered them in forums. They were just like a group of
Right.
people who, you have to remember at the time, this was like maybe even earlier, 2007, 2008. I know full well that I was out of college and living on my own, so it had to have
Okay.
been after 2006, but before 2009, because in 2009 I did a 9-hour Dreamcast marathon on the 10th anniversary on 9/9/09.
I
And
remember that. I remember
yeah,
these like those buzzwords for marketing, you know?
right, and it was the Dream Room. The
Okay.
Dream Room, we called it, and we would do it every year, and every year we would add an hour, and I think I made it
Oh, okay.
to I did 9 and 10. I maybe made it to 11, and then I kind of stopped doing them.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and I think looking back, I should have. Even 9 is a lot, especially once you start to get like responsibilities, because it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be, out of commission for the next 9 hours because I'm playing video games.
Right.
And I found a cheat. I would put the Shenmue the movie on, and people would watch
Oh,
it,
okay.
and people would come on the stream and like, what are they doing, playing Shenmue? And they were like, no, he walked away, and we're watching the Shenmue movie. But also at the time, and I think I don't know how they did it with the I have a Dreamcast marathon, but
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think how
a
they
lot
pulled
of us
that off.
aimed the camera at our TV. Like a lot of us
Right.
didn't have streaming equipment, and that's what I did at the time. And then I think I was just kind of teched out in terms of like, or I should say out teched by other streamers, because people are like, why aren't you doing a live, blah, 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 and here's the cables you use. And I'm like, I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun to see the room with the people in it, kind of like Mystery Science Theater, where you see the
Yeah.
people looking at the screen. And I think it's just that didn't really click with a lot of people, so people kind of stopped watching. But
Yeah.
yeah, moving on to then Addicts, starting as a podcast, do you have any early memories of doing podcast episodes with them?
I remember what hooked me to Sega Addicts. This might sound like the weirdest thing, or
Yeah.
some people are going to be like, "Oh, that makes complete sense. I'm right there." Their episode they did entirely on controllers. I was so amazed by how four grown men can discuss game controllers for over an hour, and I'm like, "No, this is making me think. What is my favorite controller? Like, what do I?" Because that's one thing that's so passive with
Right.
gaming, and it was always a funny thing. I used to work in GameStop, and people would obsess over what color controller they had, and it's like, does that matter? You're not looking at that while you're playing the game. But so, like, the fact that someone talked about controllers for an hour, and so I got in their community and stuff, and their forums were really active. They had weird little challenges, and you would get like icons on your name through the forum and stuff. And I don't remember how, but I actually the forums will not work if you try to go to them. I don't think there's a link anywhere. Not even joking. Russian porn bots took it over. So yeah,
Yeah, I know them well.
yeah. So, but like maybe it was the forums, but the shirt I'm wearing right now, I won it on the site, and I don't remember how. I legitimately don't. I'm not like, again, trying to be mysterious, but we didn't just get them because we were staff members. I won it maybe through writing something or commenting or giving a podcast idea. But
That's interesting.
and then I was so active that Alex emailed me one day, Alex Riggin, and he's like, "Hey, would you want to write for the site? Because you're on there a lot." So I'm like, "Whoa, what? I've never been asked to like join anything on the internet. That sounds crazy to me." But I was
Right.
like, "Sure, whatever." And the first review I wrote was for Rayman Origins, and that was kind of a loose, like Sega adjacent, related review. But I love those platformers. The first Rayman game being on Saturn was like how they linked it. And fast forward, I did some more reviews, some features, a lot of things that were fun. The features, and you probably found this too in your time of writing blogs and stuff. The listicles always work. Like, people love top 10 things.
Yeah.
But it would also get the staff to come together and do their hot takes on, like, not even a paragraph, like 2 or 3 sentences on a game, and then that goes into a list. I would do some of those. And then I think someone couldn't host the podcast, and I was like, I was going to be a guest. I could maybe take over. And the first episode that I hosted for Sega Addicts was just about magazines. And like I think we were specifically talking about their crazy ads, maybe like just the very 90s ads and stuff like that. So, which is funny because there was no video portion of the show. So my first shot at a podcast is the most visual concept you could have,
Right.
talking about video game ads in magazines. So we're just describing everything. And then it felt okay, I guess. Like I hate how my voice sounds, but I still got through it. And then I was like, "Hey, here's all the links, Alex, if you need like the stuff we were talking about." He's like, "Why don't you do the post? I mean, you can write it up and stuff. You were the host." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so that kind of fed into, "Oh, what podcast can I guest on now?" And Sega Addicts at one point had, like, there was the main podcast. There was what was called the Kids Table, which was just an excuse to be less mature, basically. They had the writer's room, and I think that was it. But there was always no less than 3 podcasts happening on that website. And so I just kept guesting on them, and then sort of became a regular to the point that I ended up creating my own that was Sega Addicts After Hours. And I think that was only because even though the main host had left like servers had changed. We didn't want to just be more of the Sega Addicts podcast. We wanted to have our own identity or whatever. But yeah, thank you, Creative Cappy. If I'm saying
I
that right.
think they jumped into this thinking that we were actually discussing our Sega addiction, but
Oh, whoops.
but we're discussing a website called Sega Addicts,
Yes.
which unfortunately the website's dead, so I don't think the addiction. I don't think it kicked the addiction. I think the addiction got to you.
Yeah. I just was talking to someone today. I was like, yeah, because I was telling about the show, and I was like, somehow we were talking about resumes. I'm like, yeah, I've never put, oh yeah, it was a previous Sega Addict staff member. They're like, yeah, it's been questioned when I throw that on a resume. I'm like, that's why on my resume it is sega-addicts.com. It's never called just Sega Addicts anywhere. So yeah, but I guess like the first podcast I hosted was about magazines, and then it was real easy. I think you know what it was is I'm having this realization now. I mentioned I was the Sega dork growing up amongst Nintendo dorks.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have anyone to just gush about this stuff with, so I was ready to do podcasts. You know, I was ready to talk nonstop, and I did a couple radio shows in college, so I think that helped too. So yeah.
Wow.
Does that? I think I answered your question like 3 times over there.
No,
Sorry.
no, that's great. Yeah, it's because it's always fascinating to me to hear about how not only how these fan sites come about, but how people find their way into them and how they find ways to do their part, but also keep it going. Sometimes it leads to a little tension when you have the old guard kind of sitting back and not doing much on the site, and the people they brought on start doing actually more work, and then it's like, well, who runs this site, me or you? But yeah,
I'm paying the hosting fee. Rawr.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, I've gone through a lot of my own I've gone through my own journey in Sega fan sites. I started in seeing the marathon that we both watched, reading websites like Sega Nerds, writing for, or actually creating the Nomad Junkyard blog in an attempt to get in to write for the Saturn and Dreamcast ones. I'm like, well, they'll have to start acknowledging me and then talking to me.
Right.
But then from there, it was like the Sega Memories blog, which led to SEGAbits, which was a kind of a rebirth of Sega Nerds after they died. And so it's all very interesting that we have now how long? Like 15, 25, in some cases 25, 30 years worth of Sega fan website history there. And I feel like a lot of it is not talked about or cataloged or chronicled because we're all busy with our own thing, but also there's the likes of Sega 16, who's really spending more time interviewing people from the past. And so I don't think I or anyone I've talked to are going to get to the point where we're like writing books about Sega fan sites, but I do think
Right.
it's really important to sit down and talk about it, because a lot of this stuff is just not known about or really archived online. So it's fascinating to hear about that. And I know you have actually done some work on Megavisions, which was a magazine published by former Sega Nerds staff. It was kind of murky to me, like Sega Nerds morphed into Megavisions, but were still their own thing. But can you talk a little bit about moving from online writing to writing for a magazine, and how that kind of differed from the digital format?
It was, so I guess like to say, well, I'll say this at least to kind of close the chapter on Sega Addicts.
Please, yeah.
Since we'll move away from that anyway. We were doing so many podcasts and so much streaming, but the team just kept shrinking, and it would get to a point where it's like, well, now it's Atlas also, but we're playing more Atlas than Sega, and it's like it was too much for all the people that were already working. I think at that time I had, like, no joke, 3 jobs in my life, and somehow I'm still doing a website because I'm psychotic. But so it was unfortunately me who was like, I think we've got to close the doors, guys, because like we're all hard workers, but we're about to be at each other's throats because somehow we feel like we're not putting out enough. And it was at that time too where it's like I can't even remember. We had it up there. What was the date that we stopped? Last episode. So 2018
Yeah.
was the final podcast. So if you think about Sega in 2018, it wasn't the same Sega as it is now. It wasn't the same Sega as when Sega Addicts or Bits or anyone started. So it was it was kind of like, what is Sega right now? Do we need to be the ones covering the news and everything? So I finally said, like, I think we need to close our doors. I think we're podcasted and streamed out, and let's just move on, but not. And so it ended in there's no bad blood, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But like that, yeah. There's an example right there. Like the review right before the final episode is for an Atlas game. It's not even for a Sega game. So
I see that.
But
yeah.
And nothing against those,
all of
though.
them.
Yeah, I mean,
Except for Sonic Forces.
Great. It's so that again tells you something. That was our first logo there, and that's Brett, who was the final site owner, and I think we all did our little send offs and stuff. Oh my gosh, that I still. It's not as hard as I thought it would be to listen to the final episode of the podcast, because we got there's me shoving a pancake in my mouth on stream. But yeah, the things we do for the internet. But yeah, so we ended Sega Addicts, and I actually took, I think, maybe a full year off of the internet, just of like not doing. I just don't need to do the internet. Because that was when I was streaming a lot too, and I was keeping up with like Sega Nerds and Megavisions, because Megavisions, I learned of it. I think we had done a couple of guests on their podcast, or maybe vice versa. So and as with any of the Sega community, we could just kind of formed a friendship just from our interests and like bumping into each other through the internet and stuff. And so two people from Sega Addicts, Brett, who we just saw, and also TJ, they moved right over to Sega Nerds / Megavisions, and they started writing for the magazine and stuff. The Megavisions magazine digital, I was interested in, but I was confused on how that worked. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Just a digital magazine didn't make sense. But then when I saw it like on a tablet, and how you can just leaf through and click on something and boom, it's a video interview, or takes you to a site, or to other resources that, but it still had that magazine feel somehow, like the aesthetic of it. The artwork was great. Their Kickstarter was how I found out about it and everything, which I think that was in, let me see, I wrote it down. 2016 was their first Kickstarter. Wow, that was almost 10 years ago. But they did it through Pocket Mags, which I don't even know if that's an app anymore.
I don't believe it is. No.
Yeah, but I think if you had I think if you downloaded them, you can probably. I'm pretty sure you can still access them if you downloaded them, even if the app is not working. Like, you had to have downloaded them somewhere else before the app. I don't know. I forget. Right. But anyway, digital magazine. Sorry.
No. Go on. I was agreeing with you.
Oh, cool. But a digital magazine was cool. But then I actually ran into Chris Powell at the convention Too Many Games out near Philly, and it was after getting beyond that jar and like, whoa, I've only ever talked to you on the internet. It's weird seeing you as a real human in front of me. But he showed me the demo, sort of like the proof of concept summer edition of a physical Megavisions magazine. I was like, whoa, I need this. Because it was, as the name entails, like SEGAvisions. It was Megavisions, but like Sketchcraft's art and his the layouts, like the theming, how it would look like an old issue, like it would look like it's been sitting up in someone's attic or tattered and faded and stuff. I was absolutely blown away and captivated by that. So I was like, I need to maybe be a part of this thing. And I think Sega Addicts was still, I know I'm jumping around the timeline, but I think Sega Addicts was still active then. So it wasn't like anything beyond just an interest in Megavisions. But then Sega Addicts stopped. I took a break. Brett and TJ hopped over there, and I forget if it was Brett or TJ. One of them was like, yeah, they were kind of hoping you would join us too, because you were kind of doing all the streaming stuff and kind of you had a lot of podcasts and stuff. I'm like, guys, I need to just not be on the internet for a little bit. But eventually I was like, it's that Captain America meme of, so you've gone and gotten yourself into tension again. But it was more of, so you've gone and realized you need to start another podcast,
Right.
So I ended up joining Megavisions, and I wrote a couple articles for, I forget which issue, I should know that, but a physical issue, and started streaming with them and wrote stuff on the website too. I think they were still in that Sega Nerds Megavisions gray area at that point,
Yes.
but we're talking about maybe like it was causing too much confusion to have those two things going on and not be called the same thing, etc. So I think they were gradually moving into being just Megavisions overall. But going from digital to print, I think I had, the only other time I had like random articles in a high school newspaper printed, or published or whatever. But like seeing my name and like something I wrote in a magazine, I was like, how do I like staple this to a resume? Do I just bring this to job interviews? Like, what do it's such a weird thought process of how do I show people that I do this and then explain, oh, remember Sega, like
Right.
there's a couple of different layers to get to explain why this is impressive to someone else besides just me.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing, but at the same time, it made so much sense to me as like a retro collector and a retro, well, you can see the VHSs behind me, but
Right.
as a retro collector, I was like, maybe magazines are coming back. And then at that time there was already, Nintendo Force, I think, is another magazine. I can't remember if that's the name of it, but there were magazines out there, but there wasn't a Sega magazine. So
Right.
kind of just felt like the 90s all over again, at least in the States. I know the UK had way more magazines than we did. Of course, Japan had way more magazines
They
than
have
we
Retro
did.
Gamer
Right.
magazine going, which actually has their main like Sonic Sega writer on staff wrote for us very briefly and wrote for Sonic Retro. So it's kind of interesting that his early writings, in fact, I think he used our press credentials to interview Izuka at a very early like Summer of Sonic, and then I think that was part of his resume for then going to Retro Gamer magazine. So I always point to him and I'm like, he used to write for us. I made him. No, I didn't make him, but
whatever, Grandpa Barry. Let's get you to bed.
It is really fascinating to see all the interconnectedness there, where it's like, and you just brought up, or I should say, I'll just bring up here. TJ is in the chat.
What up, TJ?
Right now, and I've actually met him at the Galloping.
Oh yeah, he's out in Chicago with you.
Yeah, some time ago, and. Let me just do this right now because it's going to happen at some point. So I am hosting a Sega fan meetup at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. It's happening October 25th, 2025. Not 24, I was about to say that. But there's a 4 there. This is the 4th arcade adventure, and that's what I call it. But honestly, it's really just a casual meetup at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. We do a little pre-meetup across the street just because I learned the hard way that at the first one people would go to the arcade and they wouldn't know where we were. It was such a big arcade, so I figured, you all show up, you don't need to drink a beer, I'll have one just to take the edge off, but from there we all walk over and we just kind of casually play arcade games. There are free stickers. Every one that we've done, there's a sticker. I'm actually considering a mini poster where it's going to have spots to put every sticker from every meetup.
Your own almost stamp rally thing.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Sonic the Fighters tournament if the machine is working, and the prize is going to be an oversized, and I wish I brought it over here, but it's in the other room, an oversized you remember that commercial with the pasta can that gets slammed into the Sega Genesis when the Sonic the Hedgehog videos came out? Yes. So I have a friend of mine and I have been developing a 3D printed one, and we have an oversized golden one, and it's so big that it can actually hold up an entire tub of Sonic the Hedgehog energy drink powder. So the winner of the tournament will get a giant golden cartridge with an adapter on top for a Sonic energy drink tub that'll be included. So that's my really weird prize.
What would you you got to come up with like a quick short name for that thing. What do you call that thing?
Well, the one that works with the SpaghettiOs is called the pasta base converter. That's what I call it,
Oh,
which is
there
a
you
play
go.
on the power base converter, which played Master
That
System
makes
games.
sense.
So that's that.
That
But
makes sense.
anyway, not to derail things, but we did bring up the arcade, so I had to bring that up.
No,
And
perfect
and
transition.
costumes are suggested; they're not required. But considering we're 6 days away from Halloween, like I don't know, I'll try to find something where I do have
Oh,
an
yeah.
II T-shirt that's like 2 sizes too small, but I don't think I'm gonna be wearing that.
It gets pretty hot in there, so I don't know how it would get even smaller probably real quick.
Probably would. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You got to wear a black T-shirt when you're at the arcade because,
Yeah.
the point where your two pit stains meet in the middle, that's when you've got a real problem. But
Then you know you're a true gamer.
exactly. So when you were at Megavisions, you wrote for them for a bit. We don't need to go through their whole history, but just kind of very briefly, it ran for a bit. Then it stopped. It rebooted and ran for a bit, and then it stopped. The reboot was less of a Sega magazine and more of a general gaming one.
Yeah.
And now there's talk of a third reboot. Do you know anything about this?
Not really much more than what was said on the latest podcast, but it makes complete sense in the
Yeah.
direction that it's going. Honestly, if you knew Chris Powell personally, they did. Yeah, it went retro and then kind of modernized with the outlook and also the coverage, and now, rightfully so. Chris Powell said he's tired of trying to do a blog and meet SEO stuff. Like he wants to just write about what he wants to write about. And I'm like, yes, finally, because I was kind of preaching the anti SEO stuff last when I was
Right.
in Megavisions, but it's neither here nor there. And he's always been about interviews, and he's pretty good at interviews too. He's good at just he's a guy you want to have a drink with. You know what I mean? Like that kind of conversationalist. Um, and so he wants to lean more into like conspiracy theory related stuff, like haunted things, alien things. What's going on with the pyramids? I don't even know. I'm not. Well, you like X Files, so like
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
X Files and then turn it into video
I
game
don't know
centric
if I
stuff
want an
somehow.
X-Files. I'm very interested to see where this goes because I knew Chris very early on, and then I don't know if we had a falling out or if he just there was some bad blood because we started SEGAbits and kind of stole their thunder for a bit. But I've always been kind of watching from the outside, the progression and the third iteration of it being video game magazine and conspiracy theories is very interesting. So I guess I'll see where this goes. I don't know if it's like video game now. If it's video game conspiracy theories, that's one thing. But if this is just like
Right.
Bigfoot was spotted and by the way, here's Tom Kalinske.
Right.
That's going to be interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think like he had a good example, and I recommend everybody who, if you're wondering what Megavisions is going to be doing or what they've been up to, he goes into a lot of updates. So more power to him for talking about a lot of personal stuff too. But the example he gave was interviewing Ed Nunziata, the creator of Echo. And I very recently learned the actual story of the Echo games, and they are insane, but
Right.
like in the best way. So he would want to talk to Ed Nunziata just about aliens. Like, because that's what that game ties to. It's like, how
I
much
could
do you
see that.
believe in that stuff? And like, what do you think about, this and that? And because everybody's interviewed him about Echo or about Three Dirty Dwarves or whatever, Mr. Bones,
Right.
for all we know. So it's a more of a sci-fi spin more than anything on or like cryptid spin on video game interviews and video game coverage, I would think overall.
Okay.
So again, the times I've hung out with him, this makes complete sense.
Okay.
So I think also it's one of those things where you cover games for so long, you do something for so long, you want to freshen it up somehow in some way, shape, or form, and that's how he's going to do it. So
All right. Well, I
So,
wish
yeah.
him luck. I don't want to see failure within the Sega fan community, but I'm very interested to see where it goes.
yeah, I hope it pans out. It's it is not easy to maintain, much less finance and organize a magazine. So more power to him. I even told him, I was like, hey, if you need any extra articles, I can jump back in real quick, so,
Yeah. Well,
but
speaking of interviews,
yeah.
actually, I have Tom Kalinski's email, and I've been actually for the longest time meaning to get in touch with him. I know he had a stroke a long while back, and he's recovered.
Oh,
I don't know fully, but he's definitely out and about still, complaining on
yeah.
LinkedIn and Twitter. But something I've always wanted to talk to Tom Kalinski about, and maybe I'll email him like next week or something, is his thoughts on the new Toy Story movie. Because the new Toy Story movie has uh, a, talking tablet, kid's tablet that looks like a frog, which is very clearly a Leapfrog inspired
Oh, okay. Yeah.
device. And he is well known for being very early at the Leapfrog company. I think he was a CEO, and now he's still on their board. He also was an advocate for the Sega Pico, and I think he was the real reason the Pico made it to the West and went as far as it did. And so it'd be very interesting to talk to him, not only about his history with the Pico, but also his thoughts on Pixar essentially vilifying children's learning tablets. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
too where that movie's going to go, because it was, when I saw that, it actually kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, I get that you can look at
about
like
that.
an Amazon Kids tablet and see that as being a thing that kids should not be using. But Leapfrog, to my knowledge, are self-contained. It's not kids watching YouTube videos. It's all learning games.
Yeah.
So the idea of a new Toy Story, and I don't know if at the time he was with Sega when the Toy Story game came out, but that would be kind of ironic that the CEO who worked
Right.
very closely, it could be because 94, 95, I think he was still there. He might have been on the way out, but
Yeah,
just
that might have been
just
like on the cusp.
but just imagine this guy who made the Toy Story game potentially happen on the Genesis is now having the other part of his legacy, dragged over. I don't know what.
Right.
So we'll see where this goes, but it's something I've been wanting to ask him,
Man,
and
I
so
forgot
I think I
about that.
will. But
Yeah.
that would be very interesting. But have you done interviews yourself in the
Ah,
past?
not like short answer is yes,
Mm,
but they were mostly through podcast mediums, and then but there were a couple that I did at PAX East,
yeah.
um, which was just so one of them was such a mess. We just talked about it. Shameless plug on Sega Spirit, because I went to PAX East. I used to go annually somehow when rent was cheaper and I didn't have car payments, I guess.
Right.
But there was shoot, what year? What 2012? Because they had Aliens Colonial Marines coming out, and they also had Sonic 4 Episode 2 coming out. Um, and the Aliens Colonial Marines, no one. This was like the first public demo of it, and so there was all that hype. There was a big old thing that looked like it's out of the universe, like a blockade of stuff, and like the
Yeah, yeah.
power loader and everything. But that was my first interview I did in person, and I didn't know it was going to happen until I was walking out to the person I was interviewing, because I got in line, and they had, this was back when have you been to any of the PAX conventions at all?
I've never been to PAX. I've been to a couple too many games,
Okay.
but I know PAX is much bigger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's actually one of the reasons I kind of took a break, was they got so congested.
yeah,
But it's very much it's like the Comic-Con of video game conventions, because it's a lot more community centric, or customer centric, rather than like a trade show kind of thing. But anyway, Penny Arcade Expo up in Boston. But I literally got in line, played the thing, watched their demo reel and whatever, and as I'm leaving, they're like, all right, you're going to speak to Matt Powers, the senior blah blah blah. I'm like, I am, because I think they saw that I had a camera and I had like another interview planned and stuff, and so didn't even have my buddy with me, who was kind of the camera guy. And so his assistant or whatever filmed us, and I thought of the questions as the interview was happening. I'm like, oh my gosh. So but then after that, I went over, not right after, but like I eventually had an interview with Ken Ballo, who was the Sonic brand
yeah.
manager, I
We
think.
called him Ben Callow. Also,
Yeah.
that was
But he was awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that was so
Yeah.
much. I'm glad I did those interviews in that order because like his was so much more fun and just relaxed.
Yeah, interviews can be nerve-wracking, and no offense to you, but like when it's someone who's, you're like, I really hope that nothing gets disconnected. I really hope they know
Right.
how to use the software. And in those early days, I believe we were using, man, what's that program that's no longer around? That was very Skype. We were using Skype
Oh.
with a plug-in to record the audio, but we couldn't record the video. And then there was
Oh
this thing where
yeah.
it's like, use OBS, and I'm like, I don't want to use a streaming software. And we do record our Sega Talk podcast with that, but I am so thankful that there are programs like, and this isn't an ad for Ecamm Live, but Ecamm Live that I use. I mean, I pay a nominal fee. I've joked that the fee is actually equal to the amount that I make from Patreon on Sega Talk, so I'm at a good zero right now in terms of profit from that. But
It
works
evens out.
but at the same time, like as I got older and as I was doing these, I was like, I actually don't like the stress and the planning and the fact that if there's someone who's super well known in the industry, prominent, I'm always afraid to say to them, hey, it's Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, and that's the time I
Yeah.
can do it. So I was saying yes to the stupidest times. I'd be like, oh, you're in the UK? Yeah, let's do 8 in the morning on Saturday. Or I'd be like, oh, you're in like some strange other part of the world. Yeah, let's do, I could stay up till 1 a.m. and let's do that. And never again. Like, I'll be honest, like, as fun as it is to do those, like it's so nerve-wracking to do that. And it's not never again, but there are people who I now am very happy to have on again and again,
Sure.
because I'm comfortable with them. Like the guy who does all the Sonic movie novelizations, I've had him on, I think 2 times. I want to have him on a 3rd time, and I'm so comfortable to talk to him. But
Yeah.
it's like I think the days of me doing video interviews with like, the guy who did Night Trap and the guy who did Toe Jam and Earl and the guy who voices Sonic, it's a bit much. It's a little stressful.
Yeah, it's strange, but like you reminded me though, saying how familiar you get when like how comfortable you get with people you interview. At one point through Sega Addicts, Ken Ballo again, he had done a couple interviews, and then there was at the end of some podcast episodes they would do fan fiction theater, and everybody would take their part and they would just read a fan fiction, and he wasn't even part of the episode. Like they would just splice together after a podcast, there'd be the fan fiction theater, but Ken Ballo came in and did the voice of Big the Cat for one thing randomly, and
That's
like
fantastic.
they didn't even acknowledge it other than so and so is played by so and so. So yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was from an era of Sega PR and fan relations and social media relations that is now dead. And I think this is the we're deep enough into the episode that we can complain about Sega and they're never going to listen because they're never going to go 45 minutes deep. But
yeah, I'm going to light this thing on fire.
Yeah,
Screw
right. I mean, I have to say, we've both been through it. We both know the ups and downs of Sega. But for those listening, just like a very brief history, when we started, at least when I started in 2010, those were the days of Ruby Eclipse, Aaron Weber.
Yeah.
Those were the days of, I keep saying Ben Callow. It's Ken Ballo. Well, that was like a meme. There was like a different alternate universe version of him played by someone at Sonic Retro that would clown
with
on
a goatee.
Yeah, he didn't care. But they were so nice and personable, and they would talk to you, and because their job was fan relations, and at the time, fan sites were really, up there. We weren't at the top, but we were definitely up there. I feel like streamers and influencers and YouTubers were in their infancy at the time, and they weren't really being considered. Really, the focus was fan sites and the randos on Twitter and Facebook. In fact, I feel like they gave a lot more attention to the regular people. And as time went on, we had Julian and Kelly. I don't know if you ever worked.
Yeah.
You did. There was a I don't know if you did a drawing, but someone at Sega Addicts did a drawing of Julian, and he kept it on his desk until his
Oh,
last
wow.
day.
Oh, that was probably Tom, because
Yeah.
he did all the artwork for the site. Either Tom, maybe even Josh. He did like cartoony stuff, but I believe it.
Yeah. And Julian, he's a fantastic guy. He was actually the one. I emailed him like, this is crazy. I'm going to be in San Francisco, but can I come to the Sega office? And he said sure. And they actually,
Yeah.
he and Kelly. I mean, I didn't go as
Kelly was
further
awesome too,
than
yeah.
the front desk, but they did take out 2 huge boxes from the archives, and I got to take pictures and look at all these fun
Nice.
console rarities and things. And I even stole a visitor badge because I was like, well, I'm not going to get to go inside, but I'm going to steal one. But they were both very cool, and they were very personable. I do think they were a little hesitant because they didn't know how weird I would be.
Sure.
When they brought the all the items out, I was like, this is awesome, but I can't fit all this in my suitcase. And they were like, this isn't for you. And I'm like, I know, I'm just kidding. But they were awesome, and I've stayed in touch with Julian since then. He's at WB
Nice.
Games now,
Oh,
still in San Francisco. And he not too long ago like sent me some stuff he found in his garage. It was
nice.
It's behind me here. It's a Samba de Amigo iPod Nano or iPod Mini or whatever
wow.
that is.
Nice.
Which was a giveaway. It was supposed to be preloaded with like videos, but I don't think this one is. This might have been like a preview one, so they could like sign off on it or something. But in any case, like you can see, like these guys, men and women haven't worked for Sega in decades or almost a decade now, and yet they're still in touch. They're still cool. But then, as time went on, they started using third parties that largely work with influencers and YouTubers. I mean, you're even seeing this now with Shinobi. They're sending out like influencer boxes to people I've never heard of, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need free stuff, but throw me a bone. At least give me the review code. Like, come on. But it is very strange, and I kind of glossed over whole history, but essentially they've moved around to different PR agencies, and they've also shifted things for a long time to the UK. So you had to kiss butt from across the ocean, which was very difficult because people came in who already had their buddies who were also influencers, or people who were like fans of certain YouTubers, and they're like, well, now that I'm in a position of power, I'm going to become friends with this guy. And it was very obvious. I mean, I don't want to derail the podcast, but like...
No, if there's any guest to complain about this with, it's me.
Yeah,
because I understand it, yeah.
The Shinobi, or Shenmue, when Shenmue's remaster was coming out, they worked exclusively with the Figure It Out Productions guy. I don't recall his name.
Oh my God.
And I know he's much
now
loved.
that you said that, I can't remember it.
I'm not trying to hate on him. Adam Koralik, but he was not the right person to promote that. He's very niche. He does not present well on camera to the masses. And they gave him like a travel budget and a camera, and oddly enough, he was like partnered up with a comedian from the UK who no one's ever heard of. They sent them to Sega Fest in Japan, and they filmed a video with no commentary. It was just them walking around and showing things. And I'm like, how do you have a comedian and a YouTuber, and neither one of them are actually giving any content? It's just them
like
pointing
flavor.
at things. Yeah, it's almost like maybe the microphones didn't work, but long story short,
I wouldn't put that past them with how much tech difficulties I've had.
Yeah. So I mean, were there any like, I don't want to say horror stories, but maybe moments where you were like, Sega's really slipping with how they engage with the fan sites and fan communities?
I can't think of anything. But when you mentioned Aaron Weber, what kind of the opposite of what you're asking, but I will mention it. I mention it because you said you haven't been to PAX, so this was something that was at PAX Prime, and it was the perfect setup because PAX West, I guess it's called now, out in Seattle, where they hosted it was blocks away from GameWorks, which Sega owned. and so this was when Sonic Colors was coming out.
Yeah.
This also, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I think the thing that connected us most to that team that you just talked about was they had a regular blog on Sega. I think it was Sega blog instead of it's like
That's
Sega's
it.
official
Yeah,
site
yeah.
or something. But like Aaron would update that all the time, and I remember seeing like the April Fool's joke where they turned his whole desk into Green Hill Zone and stuff. And hey, what's up, Dr. Scottnick? Um, he has followed me from like every Sega thing I've done. So what's up, dude? He's good people, but they like did an April Fool's joke on Aaron's desk and made it Green Hill Zone instead with like papercraft and stuff, and that was the big post that day and whatever. But Sonic Colors was coming out, so at GameWorks during PAX Prime, Sega had the band Cash Cash doing an acoustic set. They had done the soundtrack or a couple of songs off of Sonic Colors. They had them playing at GameWorks, and then with this thing, you had to stand in line and get a wristband, but you got 2 complimentary drinks, the free concert, access to a buffet that they were hosting, and Aaron was just walking around the crowd and BSing with people, and then you got like 200 tokens or something for GameWorks, but it was insanely personable.
Yeah.
Like Aaron being the MC, and then after Cash Cash was done, they're like, all right, go play some games. And I just like ran into Aaron walking around. I was with Sega Addicts, but I don't think he didn't know who I was or anything. But I was just like, hey, Aaron, it's so cool to see you like out and about. That April Fool's joke was pretty good. And he was just like talking to me like I was just another dude like that he already knew. So polite, so friendly. And just like that stuff, I feel like that doesn't happen as much anymore. But I think this is related to what we're talking about, though. I feel like once that blog stopped being so consistent, I think that was when I started to feel like I know they can't keep up with a blog for the fans every day, but I feel like something's changing, you know? And I think when Aaron wasn't as vocal, and that's another thing. Like he came, I know I keep talking about it, but Aaron came from being basically running a Phantasy Star Online forum and being super involved in that game. And like Sega kind of sought him out. I don't know if he ever sought them out first, or maybe it did, but you know, it's just crazy how that happens. But like, yeah, I noticed he wasn't on socials as much. I don't think we are hearing from Ken as much anymore. And it was just the silence that was deafening from like those contacts and those people. So you could kind of feel like, do we still want to talk to Sega? Does Sega still want to talk to us? So I can't really pinpoint a exact moment, but it was just a gradual feeling of like, do we have the connection? Like, not that we were like, we've got the hookups, but it was still like, what's going on?
Right. Yeah. And you know, there was a time when it was like Julian, Kelly, Ken, Aaron. We knew these people. We saw them writing. We saw them interacting. Nowadays, it's not on the site. It's on Twitter, and it's on. Well, it's mostly on Twitter, and I don't think that's a very smart social strategy to put most of your team's messaging on a platform that's quite divisive that a lot of people have since left, and then you cross post to Blue Sky, but you're not actually talking to us on Blue Sky when we interact with you. You can't really interact on Instagram. Facebook's just a mess. So really, it's a bunch of disparate accounts that you can only find if you know who they are from like LinkedIn or something, and you see their tag. And the ones I've interacted with have been good, but there's a lot of turnover. Like as soon as I start to get to know someone, they leave and someone else comes on. And you know, people will tell me like behind the scenes, like, Barry, you know, you're being a little grumpy online. Like you just got to get to know Rachel and Joe. Those are just names I threw out, but like get to know Rachel and Joe. And so I'll be like, hey, Rachel, I run this Sega fan site. We've been around since 2010. What's up?
Yeah, you got to do the song and dance again.
No reply, and then they maybe catch you, and then you know, and then it's like after 3 long years at Sega, I'm leaving. And you're like, God damn it! They just started talking to me, and now I got to find someone else. And it's just been like that. And now we're at a point where I think a lot of the staff are in the UK, and so it's very hard to connect with them there with the time difference. And they've been good. They've been sending us. They say we have review codes, and then I'll say, great. Do you have any US codes? And they're like, no. And I'm like, ugh. But it just, I feel like there needs to be some sort of, I don't want to shake up again, but they just need to bring back the blog or something, or maybe
Yeah.
even
They're just
something
not community focused.
right.
They're
They
not.
need to have a community focused place on their website that posts all the news, almost like a fan site embedded within an official site that talks to
Yeah.
people and has a feed that you can interact with. And then they're like, if you are a I don't want to say influencer or content creator, but like, yeah, that's what they call it now. Reach out to us. And they kind of have done that, but I feel like there's so many voices now, and there's so many people out there who want Sega's attention that, nowadays it's like some massive streamer who's known largely for Fortnite has a slight interest in Sonic the Hedgehog, and they're like, laser focused on you now. And then it's like, what happens to SEGAbits and the rest of us? And it's like,
Yeah, it's weird. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but you
No, go ahead.
made me think of like there's a couple. I don't keep up with as many streamers as I used to, but there's a couple ones that I follow that are Sega centric, and like they have a decent following and they seem just like genuine people, but they never do stuff with Sega. And I guarantee you they've tried, but it's like they don't have the numbers that companies want and whatever, but they have the passion.
Right.
They're going through like the whole Genesis library, but you're not trying to do anything with them.
So I think to kind of like put an end to that part of this discussion, I think the important thing was, and I kind of came to accept this a few years ago, is that even though SegaBits and fan sites that are still around, like Sega Driven out in the UK, aren't getting as much attention from Sega and information from them and review codes. We're still big in our own right within the Sega fan community. And something that really made me realize that was not too long ago. I checked the view count for 1 month across every social platform we're on, across the website, and it was a staggering amount. It was close to, I want to say, like, it was like 17.5 million. And I was like, we do have a reach. It's just, it might be, it's different. It's not as though all these people are reading a listicle or they're listening to this podcast. But if I put a picture out there of, if I draw a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog as a janitor with a big butt, that many people are probably going to see it, which is something.
Right.
So that's the thing I've really been throwing out there every time I talk to Sega, when I get their ear and they ask for what that reach is. I'm real about it, and I'm like, look, if we spit something out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, our website, and YouTube at the same time, we can hit this number. That's not nothing. Sure, we're not big in one of those areas, but when you add it up, it's not nothing. So, and also I think
weird.
I've just grown to really love the community. I've gotten to know the likes of you. He was just in the chat. Well, I guess he's another Scott. Dr. Scottnick was in there.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
TJ, and then all the people who are on our site, the writers, the community members. So to me, that's just as, if not more important than like the attention from Sega. And really, I've learned that it's not killed my drive and enthusiasm. I'm still a fan. And there's always that, it's always kind of put to the test sometime when I'm like, I haven't played a Sega game in like 2 months. I've done the podcast, but it was kind of a chore. But then like something will get announced or something will come out, or I'll see something on eBay, and and I'm like, the fact that I'm still excited about this stupid thing says that I'm not, maybe I was just in a little slump, but I'm still.
Oh yeah, it's that lizard brain that we still have. That's like, Sega. Did I see those 4 blue letters? What's going on?
Right.
But it is. No, the community is the biggest and most important thing, because I always used to joke, working at GameStop. I have a couple tattoos, and one of the ones I have is Sonic and Knuckles on my arm. And I would always joke at the time, like, oh yeah, I'm part of one of the worst fan communities on the internet, because it was like that. I would always make that joke around whenever you Google anything Sonic. For some reason, My Little Pony would come up, and not in a fun way.
Yeah.
Somehow that would happen. But like, as it's gone on, that the Sonic community is far from one of the most toxic or negative ones. But like within the Sega community, though, like the Shenmue community is some of the nicest people in the world. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've got the Knights community that is also some of the most like warm and welcoming people in the world. Like the different, not it. I guess what I'm saying is like I take a lot of pride, and it's not just the Sega community, but even if
Right.
you're in the niche of the niche, it's still some of the best people.
For sure. And I think what my brain was trying to connect to is that I look back at what the people like Aaron and Ken and Julian Kelly were, and I'm like, where is that now at Sega? And I think the answer is that era of Sega is over. We've
Yeah.
seen them attempt it with Danny. I don't know if you communicated with
Yeah.
Danny from
No.
Sega Forever. One
Yes.
of the greatest Sega employees in a
Oh,
very
hands
long
down.
time, committed,
The
caring, reached out to us. Yeah, he had Sega tattooed on his head.
Yeah,
Just
that's
an
how committed.
absolutely fantastic guy. And he was, he's not there anymore. He was screwed over by the
No.
company, screwed over by
Yeah,
management,
I've heard
bullied
some
by his
things.
boss. Like, this is all well known. He's talked about it. And you know what? I'll still be a fan of the games. I'll still interact with the staff, but I'm going to stop looking to Sega to fill this void that Aaron left. And instead, I'm going to be looking to myself and those within the fan community and uplift those people and speak to those people. Because I'll be honest, like, I feel like the people at, for example, the Sonic Weekly podcast, who they now post to our site, or cross post to our site, like David alone, who has been with Sonic Retro forever, he's more up there in terms of like connection to the fan community and knowledge and
Oh,
history
yeah.
than anyone at Sega currently, at least outside of Japan, maybe.
Right.
And then the people like Grant, who's, some of the people who have done work with Sega, even I think in the chat here, Dr. Scottnick, like,
Yes.
it's still, even though it might be contractors who are or are
We
not
were
working with them. Yeah, go ahead.
we were both in one of Dr. Scottnick's videos, actually. You and I both.
Oh, that's correct. That's right. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just like yeah.
So, I guess I this is kind of like a therapy session for me a little bit, because it's like I need to stop
Fine.
looking to Sega and waiting for, the next new hire to become that new Aaron or Danny, and I need to start looking at myself and the people around me and uplifting them, because yeah, I just think that era of Sega and that era of the internet really is over, and there are people who flock to streamers, and there are people who flock to influencers who give very like light content that appeals to certain people. But I've found that we throw things out there, and we've been putting stuff out for well over a decade, and even though the numbers are nowhere near what the streamers are getting, they are, and I've said this before to George, and I've said this to a friend of mine who's had a struggling Patreon. I'm like, think of all the people who are regularly listening to you and regularly supporting you on Patreon. Think of this as like, if you had a physical space where you set out chairs and you were like, I'm doing a podcast. Imagine if that number showed up in person. It would be staggering to you. The fact that 500 people came out, or 100 people came out, or something like that. It seems small on YouTube and Patreon, but it's big in person. And like, start to think of it that way. If you have a repeat listener or visitor, or someone comes up to you at an event that you put on, they're like, hey, I've been listening to you for years. Like, that's big, and that's not nothing. And I feel like I'd rather have that than have those millions of numbers that really don't actually mean much. If that
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense.
1,000% it does, because it's
Yeah.
the same with streaming too. Like every time I would do a stream for Megavisions or Sega Addicts or my personal stuff, I did go with the mindset that a friend taught me, that you've got 5 people in a chat, but that's 5 people that would fill up a couch in your living room.
Right.
They're just hanging out with you talking, and then he didn't say this, but I compare it to the people who are streaming for like 500 or 1,000 people when the chat's just going like it's in slow mode. Like, they're not interacting with anyone there unless someone pays and it gets it illuminated. They're not hanging out with anybody. They're just on a stage. It's not the same thing. So
Right.
sometimes the lower numbers, I shouldn't say lower even, sometimes the smaller numbers are just more personal anyway. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I maybe it's part of this is because I just came off of a trip. I was in California. I went to another fandom I'm in is the Star Wars fandom. And
Oh, yeah.
for years, I would listen to this podcast. It was called The Force Cast, and that changed to Rebel Force Radio. And I like the guys. One of the guys is from Chicago. So I was like, well, if I'm ever in Chicago, maybe I'll meet him. They did one of the movies came out. They did a meetup. I went there, talked to him a bit. We realized we both lived near each other. We met up at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. One thing led to another. And now I'm doing like a Patreon podcast on their Patreon with a couple guys in the area, and we just went out to the world's largest Star Wars collection over the weekend, which is run by the I guess the Aaron Webber equivalent of Star Wars over there.
Yeah.
He's much older because he started in like the 90s,
70s. Oh, okay, gotcha.
But yeah, and I just realized like there were 150 people there who knew me. And it was just kind of wild, and it was kind of staggering. And then I was looking around, I'm like, I've listened to these guys for well over a decade. They influenced how I do podcasts and how I kind of formulate like the Sega Talk podcast and thing like that. And I'm like, these guys aren't getting much access from Lucasfilm anymore, because same with Sega.
Right.
Lucasfilm is working with influencers. They're working with younger people because they really they feel like they need to crack this like young people whatever. So they'll make a show that doesn't hit with the fans, but they'll be like, well, we put a catchy pop song in it, so now here's a YouTube influencer playing that pop song from that latest episode of The Acolyte, and it's like,
Yep.
I mean, is that really helping you in the long run? No, because when I was at the event, no one there were the ones that Lucasfilm was trying to appeal to. It was all the people within the fandom. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about your podcast before
Sure.
we wrap things up. So we have it here. It's the Sega Spirit Show. It's
Yeah.
co-hosted with Graham, who actually I know from Sega Nerds. I don't know if I interacted with him that much, but he was a cool guy. And so it's wild to see here that you two have been doing a show. There's 13 episodes. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so it's Sega Spirit Show. The motto we've come up with is celebrating the Sega community, classics, and more, because it is really that. We start out usually with news articles, everything from how, for whatever reason, Mario Kart got ported to Dreamcast, or Doom got ported to Dreamcast. Something else has been ported to Dreamcast, and also the fan retro games and things that are inspired by Sega. So very much the spirit of Sega. But then we'll pick an individual topic to go into the main guts of the show with, like, most recently, because Alien Earth, the TV show, debuted, we decided to play through and talk about Aliens Colonial Marines, because we're masochists, I guess. I don't know. But we honestly, if I could recommend an episode, it would probably be the Echo the Dolphin one, because Graham was very excited to tell me the story of Echo that I had never paid attention to in those games. And by the end of it, I was like, this needs to be a cinematic experience. This plot is nuts. So yeah, but it really came out of, after I left Megavisions, I was doing a movie-based podcast and with a buddy, and that went on hiatus. And then I was like, Graham, I need to just scream into the dark abyss of the internet about video games again. And he was like, I've been thinking the same thing, buddy. So we just started a podcast again, basically. But it is a lot of just shooting the breeze and talking about whatever specific topic we decide on. So I think we dove really deep into the 65th, giant air quotes, 65th anniversary of Sega, and Graham's research convinced me that not even Sega knows how old they are.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun, because it is just we needed to talk about video games again.
That's really cool. And yeah, I was clicking through, listening to portions of some of the episodes. One thing that really interested me, just because I've been doing this for so long and I'm always looking at like the view numbers, it's very interesting how, and I don't know if you have any insight to this. I've seen this too. Like let's see here. Not to put everything under a microscope, but 132 views. Man, could be better. 3.3 K views all of a sudden, and then it goes down to 100. But then 9.5. Is this? What is it? Is it the That's with Charlie Day. That's bringing
It's the
people
thumbnail,
in.
kids. You did it. We just need like 5 more yellow arrows in there, and we'll get above
What
10,000.
is it?
Um,
Yeah.
I know, like, I mean, to be blunt, we're trying to put some money into the advertising, so that is definitely a factor.
Oh, so
But
you're paying a little bit.
a little bit
Okay.
for sure. But
Makes me feel better.
no, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of what you got to do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, I think some of it was timing with that Sega 65 going on.
Mm.
And like, I'm honestly surprised the Sonic one doesn't have more hits
9.7 is not
comparatively.
bad. Sonic, you always get the Sonic bump because George and I, we
Right.
did a podcast not too long ago. It was the Star Trek arcade game. No one watched it. And then we're like,
Sure.
Sonic, next episode Sonic, everyone watches it. And I'm like, we got to stop doing. But we're at the, we have to do what our Patreon supporters tell us to. But it was, I think even the picker was like, man, I'm sorry to pick Star Trek because no one's listening to it. And I'm like, yeah, you guys got to stop throwing us all of these weird, obscure games because we gotta throw Sonic in there. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really interesting. Maybe I'll consider throwing a little money.
It's worth it, but like it is still just all over the place sometimes.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. We were and you'll get stuff too. Like we talked about the Panzer Dragoon anime movie, and we just had so many people. When I mentioned that, a lot of people were like, "That exists,"
Yeah.
and then it was one of two things: either that exists, or like, "Why are you watching that?" But so it's like, okay, does that mean that more people are going to tune in, or is that just too niche? Too niche. Oh my god, I can't talk anymore. So yeah, you never know. Like you said, you never know. But with aliens things, and it wasn't even the mindset was not, oh, alien Earth. We can use that hashtag. Let's talk about aliens. It just
Right.
reminded me like we kind of wanted to go back to the 7th generation of games, and we thought, well, that's one of them that has a co-op thing. We could play it together, and wowee, that was an experience. But it's still fun talking about like that because also that generation was, that was when that staff we were just talking about was involved in
Yeah.
everything we do basically. So yeah, it's an excuse to talk about more Sega stuff and just go all over the place with topics, but still bring it back to the community and the retro stuff we love.
Well, let's do that right now. Let's talk about your upcoming Dreamcast marathon. It's
Yes.
it's coming up this weekend, correct? What are the details on that?
Yeah, so this Saturday, September 13th, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we're starting the 12-hour Dreamcast Marathon. I've got the big old standee behind me. I'm going to mess with the camera for a second and try to get out of the way of that thing. But
That's
to
great.
celebrate the 9999 anniversary that just happened yesterday, I think in all the years I've done this marathon, this will be my 10th or 11th one. Probably should have figured that out. But like it's very rarely that the Saturday has fallen on 9/9, so we're doing it on the 13th. But we play a bunch of different games. We try to showcase as much as we can. It used to be 24 hours, but then my body said you need to stop doing that. So sorry, I'm finicky now. So we don't do 24 anymore, but the 12-hour, I know, Dr. Scottnick, I know you've been there for every single one probably. I have mailed him physical gifts all the way to Australia from previous marathons and stuff. There was one year a buddy of mine or a friend of a friend gave me a crate worth of Genesis games that like I did not need, did not want. It was some cool ones, but overall it's just like, I'm in a small apartment. I don't need all these. So I gave away like 40 Genesis games one year during the marathon for the heck of it and like mailed them out to everybody and stuff. But it's just to showcase the Dreamcast. And this year we're trying to split it up with the big stuff and then also a lot of indie games like Flea 2 or Xenocider or Driving Strikers, like things like that. But all of it, also, probably the more important thing that I should have led with is that we're raising money for Extra Life.
That's awesome.
To help with the Children's Miracle Network and everything. So I think we're up to just over $400 right now. Previously, we've done just over 2,000 by the time like the year's over. I guess quick background for people that don't know what Extra Life is. It's literally you stream and play video games and raise money towards a chosen children's hospital in your area. And we've done that for the past couple of years, and their big like day is November. Like I think it's the 8th this year is Extra Life Day. But we used the marathon the Dreamcast marathon to try to raise as much money because like everybody's doing Extra Life Day, like Giant Bomb, like when Rooster Teeth was around, they were doing an Extra Life Day, and like all the big companies. So we're like, we're the little guys. Let's just do something in September. Oh, the Dreamcast, So it's it's a lot of fun, and it's all digital. We've done physical years before, but it's just for the logistics of it, digital is easier this year. So it's gonna be me and TJ will be there, playing some games and hanging out in the chat. I think about 4 or 5 of us overall. So yeah, digital Dreamcast, 12 hours, September 13th, 10 a.m. Eastern. Everybody.
And how do they find that? Like, what is there a URL?
Oh yeah, I didn't mention where it is, but I mentioned everything else. No, you can go to twitch.tv/ScottyMoFoSho. So it's just my handle with an underscore in between the Mo and the Fo, because every online outlet thinks I'm saying Scotty Mother Show.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. But it'll be streamed on there, and also my YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/@ScottyMo. It's streamed on both of those. So yeah, there we go. There's me and my buddy AJ in dinosaur masks, because we do every year the 2 staples of the marathon. We start with Sonic Adventure because you have to.
Right.
And then once we realize this works like this, the game Soul Calibur, you can use the fishing rod controller to play that fighting game. So we've dubbed it Pole Calibur. So that's how we end the marathon, is playing Pole Calibur with the fishing rod controller. It's I was gonna say I should have given you the trailer. I didn't think that far ahead. I just did like a 1-minute clips combo thing of previous marathons, but it's somewhere on my Twitch page there. But it's a good time. And no, that was the last stream I did, just like playing drums. Sometimes I'll do like random drumming streams.
I see drums.
Yeah, honestly, if you click on videos, and then depending on how well Twitch wants to work, we might be able to find it easily enough, but I'm not sure. No, Twitch is sometimes not the best with their archival things. Let me see.
Well,
go ahead.
Why don't you send me the link to it, and I'll post it on SEGAbits on Friday, so that people can make their way over there. I think that'd be a good,
cool
little way. We just talked about fan sites helping fan sites, so I think that would be a great thing for me to do. I think that'd be really nice of me, and I think that
I think that would be great of you, because you're a great person.
Oh boy!
And I don't know how our paths have not crossed more directly until now, to be honest with you.
It is strange, I think.
But it's also a giant community too. At the same time,
it is a giant community, and I, for a time, was always a little like I'd see people, and I'm like, they'd have a new website or a new podcast, and I'm like, who are they? I've never heard of them. I've never crossed paths with them, and I'm always like, you got to prove yourself to me before I actually start to take you seriously.
Oh, sure.
Because, I think I was always, like, suspect of people who were like, ooh, the Sonic movies are doing real well right now. I think I'm going to change allegiances and start filling my house with Sonic merch, and then telling people I'm the ultimate Sonic fan. Sega, give me, a Twitch, whatever. But
give me that cartridge. Yeah,
exactly. But honestly, like, just hearing your history, it's obvious that, like, there were those little, like, there was the Sega Nerds bucket, the SEGAbits bucket, the Sega Addicts bucket, and we kind of did our own things within the communities. But there were little bits of crossover. But it makes
me so happy that you knew I have a Dreamcast. I cannot believe that, but it makes total sense at the same time.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you said you were watching that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was there live. You were there live, and the creator of the Sega Memories blog, he changed his screen name, but it was Animated AF.
Okay.
He was there too, and he wrote for Dreamcast Junkyard. He was big. Aaron Foster, I think his name is. He's from the UK.
Okay.
But it was kind of wild that stream, like, myself, you, him, like, we were all watching it, and then we went off and did our own little thing within the fan community.
Some sort of
but-
catalyst, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I dug up one of the songs. I don't know which one it is.
Oh,
but
nice.
I'll play it over the end credits, which I think we are about to roll. But before we do that, tell me and the listeners and viewers where they can find more of you. And of course, I'll put the link up for the marathon. So this is plug time. Time to plug.
Yeah. Plugging them. Get the plugs ready. There they are.
Wrong one.
Uh,
There we go. Plug it.
I am ScottyMoFoSho on Blue Sky and on Instagram. Sega Spirit is also on both of those things. You can find it just by typing in those words, Sega Spirit. But yeah, hang out with socials. Hang out on socials with me is what I tried to say. Thanks for having me, Barry.
All right. Thanks for coming on. And we'll see you next game on the SEGAbits Swingin' Report Show live. Bye.
It's really simple math, adding up the time that we spent today in this little room. This could be a restful day, or this could be our last hooray. Either way, we're okay, stuck here where we are. Nestled in a bedroom, far from anyone to see. And for our security, it's just you and me. From this webcam, everything looks so small. And what we thought were problems can't be seen at all. From this webcam, everything looks so small. And what we thought were problems can't be seen at all. I could play Dreamcast forever, play Dreamcast forever, and never worry about anything. I could play Dreamcast forever, play Dreamcast forever, and never worry about anything. I could play Dreamcast forever, play Dreamcast forever, and never worry about anything. I could play Dreamcast forever, play Dreamcast forever.